Welcome to our channel. You ever look at your plants and just wish they could tell you what's wrong? Well, the good news is they kinda are. Their whole story, their health, their needs, their struggles, it's all written right there on their leaves. You just have to learn how to read it.
And I know, that might sound a little dramatic, but it's totally true. The colors you see on a leaf, they aren't random. They are a very specific biochemical language, and by the end of this, you're going to be fluent in it. So let's dive in.
So, how does this language actually work? Well, it all comes down to three main groups of pigments. When a plant is happy and healthy, that green from chlorophyll is just so overpowering it masks everything else. But hiding right under the surface, you've got the yellows and oranges from carotenoids and the purples and reds from anthocyanins, just waiting for their cue to show up.
And those are the moments we're here to talk about. You see, a shift away from that healthy, vibrant green isn't just a pretty color change. It's a direct signal from your plant. It's a very specific cry for help, and our job is to figure out what it means.
Okay, so the most common signal you're probably going to see is yellowing. The technical term is chlorosis, but really, it's just your plant breaking down that green chlorophyll. But here's the thing, just seeing a yellow leaf isn't enough to know what's wrong. The real secret, the absolute key to a good diagnosis is where on the plant that yellowing is actually happening.
And this brings us to probably the single most important rule you need to know: nutrient mobility. Think of your plant like a really smart, efficient factory. If it's running low on a key ingredient that it can move around, what we call a mobile nutrient, it will literally salvage that nutrient from the old, less important leaves at the bottom and ship it up to the new, vital growth at the top. But if the nutrient it's missing is immobile, well, it's locked in place. And in that case, it's the new growth that suffers.
So if you see yellowing on the older, lower leaves, you know right away you're dealing with a mobile nutrient. Let's run through the big three. If the whole leaf just turns a pale, uniform yellow and practically falls off if you touch it, that is a classic sign of a nitrogen deficiency. If the veins stay green but all the space in between turns yellow, your plant is telling you it needs magnesium. And if just the very edges turn yellow and then get all brown and crispy, it's screaming for potassium.
Now let's flip that around. What if the yellowing is on the new growth, right at the top of the plant? Well, that tells you it's an immobile nutrient. A uniform yellowing up top looks a lot like a nitrogen problem, but its location tells you it's actually sulfur. If you see these super sharp green veins against a leaf that's almost bleached yellow or white, that's a textbook cry for iron. And if you see yellowing plus the new leaves are all stunted and twisted, your plant is desperate for zinc.
All right, let's move on to one of the most misunderstood colors of all, purple. I mean, seeing your plant turn purple can be absolutely beautiful, right? But it can also be a major warning sign. The trick is learning how to tell the difference between a plant that's just showing off its amazing genetics and one that is seriously stressed out. And the difference really comes down to vitality. A plant expressing its genetics will have this vibrant, beautiful purple color, but it'll still be growing strong and healthy. A stressed plant, on the other hand, it's going to look dull, almost like a bruise, and that purple color will come with weak, stunted growth. That's the difference.
So what actually causes this bad purple to show up? It's pretty fascinating, actually. Stresses, like not having enough phosphorus or being too cold, basically cause a sugar traffic jam. The plant can't move the sugars out of its leaves. This buildup of sugar acts like a trigger, telling the plant to start pumping out those purple anthocyanin pigments, kind of like a protective shield. It's a survival tactic, but it points to a much bigger problem.
Finding this helpful? Please like and subscribe. It really helps our channel a lot. Now, while yellow and purple are warnings, our next section covers the true red flags.
Okay, we need to get serious for a minute. When you see brown on a leaf, you're looking at necrosis. It's a harsh word, and it means exactly what it sounds like. The cells in that area are dead. This is irreversible damage, and it means you need to figure out what's going on, and fast, before it spreads.
Now, two of the most common causes of browning look similar but are totally different. If you see crispy brown color on the very tips of the leaves only, with a really sharp line between the dead brown part and the living green part, that's nutrient burn. You've over-fertilized. But if the browning is on the entire edge or margin of the leaf and you remember it being yellow first, that's that classic potassium deficiency we talked about earlier.
Another key cause of brown spots is a lack of calcium, and this one has a very unique signature. It doesn't really burn the edges. Instead, you'll see these ugly, random brown or coppery spots popping up on the new growth. And because calcium is so important for building strong new cells, the leaves themselves will often look all crinkled and distorted.
So what happens when the damage just looks weird? It's not symmetrical, it doesn't really fit any of these patterns. That's when you have to start thinking about outside invaders, pests and diseases. Unlike a nutrient issue, which is usually pretty symmetrical, invaders tend to leave behind chaotic, uneven patterns of damage.
First up on our most wanted list, spider mites. The evidence they leave behind is called stippling. Basically, they use their tiny little mouths to poke holes in individual plant cells and suck out all the good stuff, leaving behind this pattern of tiny white or yellow dots. If you see that, flip the leaf over. I bet you'll find their little webs.
Next up are the broad mites. These guys are the real ninjas of the pest world because they're microscopic. You won't see them, but you will see the crazy damage from their toxic saliva. They go after new growth, making it look all twisted, blistered, and kind of wet or shiny. This is probably one of the most misdiagnosed problems out there. A lot of people think it's a virus.
And finally, we have the heavy hitters, vascular wilts like fusarium. These are nasty fungal pathogens that get inside the plant's plumbing and just clog everything up. The first sign might be a single branch, or even just one side of a leaf suddenly wilting and dying. But the real smoking gun is inside. If you cut the stem, you'll see a dark brown ring in the tissue, which confirms the infection.
I know, that was a ton of information. But don't worry, because we can boil all of it down into a really simple but powerful diagnostic toolkit that you can literally start using the second this is over. It all comes down to a super simple 3-step process. First, you ask, where is the problem? Is it at the top or the bottom of the plant? That tells you if you're dealing with a mobile or immobile nutrient. Second, ask, what is the color? Is it yellow, purple, or brown? That narrows down the cause. And third, you just combine those clues. So, yellow at the bottom, mobile nutrient issue. Brown spots on new growth, that's pointing you straight to calcium. This simple framework is your key to understanding everything your plant is saying.
So the next time you go look at your plants, you're not just going to see leaves anymore. You're going to see a language. You're going to see signals. And now that you finally understand what they've been trying to tell you all this time, the only real question left is, what are your plants going to tell you?
Hit that like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. This content does not constitute medical advice, legal advice, or recommendations for the use, self-treatment, or consumption of any substance.